Hello, masters and princesses. I am Brent Jensen, and welcome to this video. I have something different from my typical Band-Maid related videos planned today. For those who have seen my previous Band-Maid videos, you know that I start my videos by stating I am a songwriter, musician, and producer. But what does that really mean? Well, today I thought I would give you a full tour of my studio that you usually only see one corner of behind me. By seeing my tools, you may get a better idea of what I do. But first I want to say that I did get a chance to read through and respond to many of the comments posted on my last video about rock legends. I really thank and appreciate you all. A few people mentioned a very interesting point that I want to highlight. In that video I stated that Band-Maid are not rebellious relating to the 20th century rock era. A few commenters pointed out that they actually are rebellious when you consider their cultural context and lyric/subject matter. The Japanese female rock bands are a form of rebellion when you consider the typical female role in Japanese culture. Their lyrics do contain messages about breaking free of boundaries and cultural/social or even personal constraints that may hold you back. So yes, I see that there is rebellion. It just may not be as apparent to some of us in the West that have a frame of reference in our own societies from the last decades of the 20th century. So thanks for that. Also, in regards to Jimmy Page and Akane, a couple of commenters corrected me that the story of Jimmy Page comparing Akane to John Bonham is not true. It seems Jimmy was impressed by Akane and asked for the picture, but did not mention John Bonham. I did read or hear the Bonham story from somewhere, but I don't remember where. Anyway, I apologize for passing on that rumor if it is not true. Now on to the studio tour. I'm just going to wing it with my cell phone camera, so it might be a bit of a wild ride, but this is very informal. If any of you are interested in hearing the latest album of my music I produced, I will put a link in the description. Don't expect it to sound at all like Band-Maid. I would consider it more acoustic, light, slightly progressive rock. Okay, let's start at the doorway. Okay, so this is the view of my studio from the doorway. On this side I have the performing area with the keyboards and guitars. On this side's a production area, the nearer computers for video and graphics work and my general computing, and the one in the back there is the music station. So let's go start here and take a look at the keyboards. On the top I have the Arturia Polybrute, which is an analog synthesizer. And I grew up in the era of analog synthesis, late 70s, early 80s, and I learned how to use the synthesizers, and I love it. So it's really fun to have this modern version of an analog synth. The nice thing about this one is it has these controllers, X, Y, press. It has a strip here you can use, and these make changes to the notes. So it's very expressive, all the parameters you can assign. Down here is a Roland Jupiter X. This one is a recreation of their Jupiter 8 that was very popular back in the 80s. I love that synthesizer, but it was so expensive I could never get one. So I finally got this update, this recreation. It's digitally created. And it also has other synthesizers in it from Roland as well, modeled. And has a great arpeggiator, so you can play notes all over the place just by pressing down some keys and drums and all that. So it's a bit of a workstation keyboard. And then over here, oh, let's turn this one on and see what it looks like. This is a Vector. It's from Poland, I think. And it's a unique synthesizer that uses this vector technology to create the synthesis and modulate things around. And I play it by playing the Jupiter X here that's has a connection to play the notes on from the Vector. Over here is the mixing board where all the synths and the guitar stuff go in. And then the mixing board goes out to this, which is it's a little mixer I don't really use, but it's the power supply for the speakers, or the power amp for the speakers. Also, I have some headphones that I plug in if I want to use headphones. And the speakers are up here. one on each side. Plus I have a subwoofer connected, get more bass. Up here I have, of course, the guitar wall with Konami and some carbon guitars I got back in the early 2000s. You know, Carbon's a company down in San Diego that is a custom shop basically, but they have a website. They're called Kiesel now. They have a website where you can go and graphically create a guitar with all the colors and styles and designs you want, and then they'll make it for you. Pretty cool. Now this here is my favorite guitar. It's a Ernie Ball Music Man, John Petrucci Majesty. So John Petrucci's from Dream Theater, that metal progressive band. But this guitar has a lot of features and sounds really, really great. It's really easy to play. Over here I have a 12-string by Reverend for electric 12-string stuff. I love that 12-string sound. Down here I have pedals, you know, to manipulate the guitar sound. I have a guitar synthesizer that, you know, can create all different weird sounds from the guitar. There's a bass pedal that makes the guitar sound like a bass. The talking machine is kind of like a wah or a voice box. It kind of makes the guitar sound like different vowel sounds. Then the sitar, Ravi Sitar, is a sitar emulator. That's very cool. And then here is the Ocean Machine, designed by Devin Townsend with Moore in China. And this is a delay and reverb unit with all sorts of fancy features to get cool sounds. And over here is my Headrush MX5, which is a multi-effects pedal with amp modeling and simulation and cabinet modeling and tons of effects. So this is kind of the main pedal. And these other pedals to the side here just add sounds that I can't get through the MX5. And over here is the Singular Sound stuff, which is a drum machine here. We can play all different drum rhythms and songs of drum patterns. The looper, so it's a multi-track, fairly complex looper. You can do all sorts of stuff with it. Touchscreen makes it easy to use. And this is just a set of extra buttons you can press with your feet to control the looper and the drum machine. So you have extra foot control. And then up here is the Hologram by Microcosm. I believe they're in a company in North Carolina. But this is a really fancy kind of short looping, fragmenting delay pedal that does all sorts of repetitive stuff after you pluck a string. So it's pretty wild, but very fun to play with. So I have it up here because I'm still experimenting with it, so I can reach the knobs easily when I'm sitting. Over here is my first Carbon guitar I ever got. And interesting thing about this one is it has a guitar synthesizer unit built. Well, it actually has the 6-string pickup, which gets a unique signal from each string, and that passes it to the guitar synthesizer, which is actually in another room because I don't really use it anymore. And then that guitar synthesizer can, play all sorts of natural, acoustic sounds and synthesizer sounds and stuff like that. I used it quite a bit in the 90s and 2000s when I was recording my stuff. This here is another Carbon. It's kind of a thin line acoustic, and I use it when I'm working here in the production area when I need to play chords or figure out guitar parts and that kind of thing. I have a mic for singing, Audio-Technica AT4050. That's kind of a popular mic, and then a sound barrier thing here, so it reduces the echoes and reflections from the room when you're singing to kind of get a drier sound that you can process later. I have a keyboard here that's, again, just for playing notes, chords, figuring out scales, or whatever I need to do while I'm working on a music project. Now here's the main workstation area. So that's the computer. It's running PreSonus Studio One is the digital audio workstation I use. That's the software that really helps you put all the music together and produce a final product. And then of course I have tons of plugins, which are pieces of software that emulate acoustic sounds, synthesizer sounds, effects. You know, they're the things that really create and manipulate and make all the sounds that the audio workstation then puts together for the final song. So I have a bunch of those, and to play through that, I have this keyboard here. Right now I'm working on a drum, mixing some drums for the song I'm working on, so I have drum sounds loaded up. So this is just playing drums that I have loaded into my digital audio workstation. And of course, you know, this would play whatever sounds I have, you know, connected there. And then over here is the kind of the in out of the computer. I have two audio interfaces that interface, you know, like the microphones to the computer. It turns the analog into digital. This is where the microphone comes in. Then I also have effects here, so when I'm recording my voice, I can put some reverb on that I hear in the headphones when I'm singing, but it's not getting recorded in the computer. So that way I have that dry signal I can then process later in the computer. Also the monitor speakers, which are here. I've got some Atom Audio AV7s, I think, and then these IK Multimedia, one on, you know, pair on each side. So I use both of them so I can get, you know, two different feedback on how things are sounding. Anyway, so the digital output from the computer goes into the mixer where I mix. I have the two audio interfaces get mixed together here. Then I send that out to this switcher, which then switches between which of the speakers I'm using, and also switches if I want to use that subwoofer or not. Sometimes it's nice to hear the bass, and sometimes it's better not to hear it because the mid-range is the most, you know, important part to mix. Oh yeah, up here is a wireless receiver, and that is for, let me hold on a second, this, which is called Silphio. And what it is a digital wind instrument. It doesn't make sounds itself. Well, I guess it does have a few sounds in it, but you've got to plug it in to hear them. Or you can use this wireless connection to that box, which then connects to the computer. So I can basically use this wind instrument to play any sounds I have in the computer. So instead of a keyboard, I can use that wind instrument to play the music. I used to play flute quite a bit. I have a lot of flute playing in my recordings. I don't play so much anymore. Okay, and up here, see, that's a Schecter. Now that guitar, now that I'm really looking at it, it's turned quite yellow-green. That's funny. When I first got it, it was quite gray. And I got it because I love snow leopards, and it reminded me of a snow leopard. Imagine if it was more gray, you know, that kind of quilted maple effect, you know, reminded me of a snow leopard. So that's what I got there. And over here is my other Paul Reed Smith PRS. It's a 509. Now with the PRS, I had two other ones. One of them was had the brushstroke inlays like Konami's, and the other one was Al Di Meola, which was a yellow to orange fade. So originally I had the Al Di Meola here, and it reminded me of the Sun Conure with the yellow to orange fade. And I have a pet Sun Conure who's downstairs now, so I can make this video. Which, yeah, he's a really great pet. I love that bird. And anyway, when I sold that Al Di Meola, I just put this one up here because it's not quite yellow to orange, but at least it's in that color area. Now, the Konami guitar here has those brushstroke inlays in the fretboard. So I went ahead and sold that other one that had the same brush inlays, because they're kind of unusual for Paul Reed Smith to do that. But now that I have the Konami guitar, I didn't really need the other one. So I sold that. And you may wonder, I don't really play the Paul Reed Smith. I think they're beautiful, but I just don't jive with them when I'm playing. It's just not, they just don't feel quite like my style. So, when I was a kid, I used to oogle at the Paul Reed Smith guitars they came out in early 1980s, I think, and they were gorgeous. And I would go into the music store and look at them and wish I could get one, but they were so expensive. So I think I got some now just because of that nostalgia. But yeah, I don't really play them that much, but they're beautiful to look at. Well, there's some things here. That's a kite. I fly stunt kites, which have two strings, and you can do all sorts of tricks, flip them, flop them, spin them, do all sorts of stuff in the sky. It takes a lot of fine control, but I can do it here on the beach. That's a lot of fun. These are pictures of Miata MX-5 Mazda. This is one I had, I think I got it in 2010, and I sold it in 2019 or something. And yeah, that was a lot of fun. But I sold it because I got this 2018, which has a retractable hardtop. And these shots are at the Laguna Seca Raceway. The Mata Club has an event every year where you can go to the Laguna Seca and then you can drive around on the track. You can either race or just go up, do a parade lap where you just drive around slowly, and the parade lap's all I did. Yeah, and we also did it up at Sonoma, the Sonoma Raceway too. Okay, over here is Band-Maid. Okay, this is my video workstation. I use Vegas Pro and DaVinci Resolve. I've used Vegas Pro for a long time. I'm kind of switching over to DaVinci Resolve, but I'm kind of I use both of them now because I'm much more familiar with Vegas Pro, so sometimes I just go for that. And that's my microphone I use when I record the YouTube videos to get a better vocal quality. My camera. I have a light I can put on to help brighten my face. And over here, I have a few more guitars. This Schecter I got because it has a Sustainiac pickup in it, and it's a beautiful purple, which I love. But the Sustainiac pickup allows the string to vibrate kind of forever, so you can sustain a note for as long as you want to. And then there's some switches where you can switch in different harmonics and kind of get a higher or lower kind of sound in that sustained note. This one here is an LTD, which is kind of a lower line version of an ESP guitar. But I thought that this looks like the ocean to me. I thought that was beautiful. And then this one is an Ibanez S series. Now, the guitar I used throughout the 90s and early 2000s was an Ibanez S series. It was a red one. And I really liked that guitar. It's very thin. So I got this one because I thought it was beautiful and reminded me of that guitar. Now, these three guitars all have this Floyd Rose tremolo system. This is how you can bend the strings and make them go woo, 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 woo. Notice there's tuners down here, and the reason why there's tuners down here is because there's a locking nut up here. You lock the strings down. They do this so that as you do a lot of bending, the strings will stay in tune. I definitely use a tremolo. I have to have a tremolo, but I do gentle tremolo work. I don't need the wild stuff. So this is just way overkill for me, and it's kind of hard to deal with because of all the mechanics involved. So I don't really play these that much. So that's about it. I can show you one more thing here out the door. Ta-da! Some of you might remember my first video that started this all YouTube thing was my Band-Maid wall, my tribute to them. And of course, there's the band there in statuette form flying away. And up here is it's a hummingbird picture. So I'm a photographer, and I've done lots of different hummingbird pictures, especially, and I've displayed them all over the city. Anyway, so that's why, like, I've made this display, because that's kind of in my blood to do picture displays. Anyway, that's the end of the tour. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will catch you next time. Bye.